You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flora's Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of Wayback Wednesday. I'm your host, Randy Adcox. So good of you to join us tonight. Thank you for having us in your home. We appreciate it. We really do. Last week we had a lot of fun looking at some old Rocky Mountain Mills pictures, and I've got some more to share with you tonight. But before we get into those, I wanted to take a few minutes and share with you a book that I've had for some time, and I really don't know how I acquired it. I think somebody in my family got it, and they gave it to me, but it's one of the treasures I have. Probably no real value to anyone else, but to me it certainly got some value because it's signed by Bugs Barringer and Dorothy Barringer, number one. And I've shared this book before. It's called Rocky Mount, A Pictorial History of Rocky Mount, and it's got some neat pictures in it. And there's also some historical context in here, and I'm going to read some of these for you in a few minutes. But one of the things that caught my eye when I was getting ready for the night show, if you remember last week, we talked about Mr. Wallace Abernathy had been gracious enough to send me a couple of pictures, several in fact, but one in particular was the old Rocky Mount Theater down by the mill. And so prior to receiving that picture, I never knew that theater existed, frankly. I never knew anything about it. I had read references to a mill store, and as it turns out, they were one and the same. The mill store and the theater were in the same building. And I really wasn't sure which came first, the mill store or the theater. And so getting ready for the night show, I just happened to grab this book to just look for anything that may shed some light on this. And lo and behold, inside the front cover, and I don't know, Lee, if you can get this, I'm going to hold it up. This is actually a photograph, and it shows the old covered bridge going over Tar River by the mill. And if you can zoom in, Lee, it's right over here. There you go. That building right there was the Rocky Mount store. And we know that because this covered bridge was actually torn down. I think it says 1804, 1805, somewhere along in there. It was built, 1904, 1905. It was built in hang on a minute. Let me just look at it again. I thought I could remember. 1883 it was built. It was torn down in 1903, the bridge itself. So we know that in 1903, this building was here. And so at that time, it was the mill store. And so we know it was at least there by 1903 because this covered bridge was still existing in 1903. All the pictures I'd seen, all the times I'd looked at the pictures in this book, I'd never really put two and two together, and I never, for some reason, that building never caught my attention. And just to give you an idea of where you're looking there, this picture is roughly looking east, and so Rocky Mountain Mills would be on your left. The white building you see there is across Falls Road from Rocky Mountain Mills, and during this time, that was the Rocky Mount store. I'm not sure exactly what they carried in the store. I'm guessing it was a general store type operation, and so by that, I'm sure they probably had all the necessities of life on the Mill Hill, from groceries to snacks, cigarettes, probably household items to some extent. But this was the mill store. And then in later years, it became a silent movie theater. In fact, it was known as the Riverside Theater. So I'm going to show you some pictures here momentarily that we've acquired in addition to the one that Mr. Abernathy sent me a couple of weeks ago that a lady has been gracious enough to donate. In fact, and I hope I pronounced her name right, I've got written down here Ms. Maddie Bozeman, and she actually donated a couple of pictures to Braswell Library, and she instructed my good friend Tracy up there at the library to let me know about these pictures. And so Tracy contacted me today and let me know that intermediary, Miss Joyce Bunn, had swung by the library and dropped the pictures off. with, of course, instructions to let me know they were there. So Tracy contacted me, and I went by the mill, by the library, and got the envelope with the pictures in it. It was 2 of them, and I took them back in my office, and I scanned them. And so I'm going to show you those in just a few minutes. But as I said, this picture right here was probably taken sometime in the very early 1900s. But as I said, this covered bridge was torn down or demolished and replaced in 1903. So at the time that this picture was made, that mill store was still a store. It had not been converted into a movie theater yet. Another neat thing about this movie theater, Miss Bozeman, her mother and father actually met, she said, in that movie theater. And so anyways, a little family history there. But before we get into that, I just want to kind of share a few things with you. As I said, I love this old book. It's not really that old. I think the book itself was, I saw a copy early, 1977, and I think it was a compilation of effort by certainly Bugs and Dot Behringer, and I want to say Leela Cheston. Yes, I've got a call. Let's get this call. Hello there, you're on the air. Hello, you're on the air.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good for an old man.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear.
Absolutely. Anyhow, the
Yes,
photograph you just showed,
Right.
off to the right, in Battle Park, there's a big stone that has a plaque on it stating that was the location of Rocky Mount's first post office.
That's correct. It is.
And Rocky Mount was a very small place around the waterfalls at that time. And only the railroad had it to grow to the east.
Right.
Okay, well, you have a good day.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for calling in. Yeah, you know, and we've talked about this a few times on this show. It was literally the railroad coming through Rocky Mount that really helped it get crops to market, certainly tobacco and, corn and cotton. The railroad is what put Rocky Mount on the map, that's without a doubt. Agriculture was here first, the railroad came second, and Rocky Mount grew around those two entities, and those two industries, I should say, those two businesses. And so, I've often thought about if I had an opportunity to go back in time, where would I go, when would I go? And I just think it would be a neat thing to go back and see Rocky Mount in the very early days, in the early 1800s, and even up into the early 1900s for that matter. I just think it was a neat period of time in this area. But this book, as I said, is a compilation. Miss Leela Chesson contributed to it, some of the historical information. Certainly Bugs Behringer took pictures. I wanted to show you, this is a neat picture. And again, I have shared some of this before. This is actually a picture. It says, during World War I, a war bond parade was a big event in Rocky Mount, and to win first prize for the best float was really exciting. In this 1917 photograph, Mary B. Trueblood was the driver of the Model T Ford that was decorated for the occasion. Notice the angel on the hood. Standing are, left to right, Ruth Williams Coley, Edna Arrington Scruggs, May Burnett Matthews, and Catherine Burnett Toller Gardner. And this is the first prize winner. I don't know if you can zoom in on that or not, but this was the first prize winner in the float parade. And this is from, as I say, right after World War I, so 1918 or so, 1919, somewhere along in there. But that's a highly decorated Model T World War I. I mean, it's a neat old picture, and there are many more like that in here. There was another one too. I wanted to, and I'm not going to go through this. This book has, let me see, it's about well over 100, in fact 160 or so pages, I think it was, 167 or 68 actually. But there's a lot of neat old pictures in here, and I wanted to share this for a couple of reasons. Number one, because it kind of dovetails what we were talking about last week in the theater down by the mill and so forth. There's actually a couple of pictures of the old mill down here, and there's some information, some historical information talking about when the mill was built, how it started out. In fact, this is real brief. It says Rocky Mount Mill was constructed in 1818 as the second cotton mill in the state. felt the torch of Union troops in 1863. The mills were back in operation in 1865, as shown in this photo. Grist mill at the left, cotton mill at the right. Unfortunately, these buildings were again the victims of incendiarism in 1869 when a perturbed employee put them out of operation again. So in 1865, let's see here. This picture was actually 1865, and it shows the grist mill to the left and the cotton mill to the right. So grist mill right here and cotton mill. This is grist mill. Where's the picture at, Lee? Okay, I probably can you get that? It's at the bottom of the page there, Lee. I'm not sure. There you go. And just bring the whole image up if you can. And up the other way. I'm sorry. There you go. Now, there you go. So here we go. I'll bring it to you. All right. So on the left side is the actual grist mill, and then the other side over here is the cotton mill. So it was two mills operating simultaneously in 1865 at that location. And, of course, Rocky Mountain Mills for many years was powered by the river. That was why it was built where it was. And, of course, the grist mill, in later years, the cotton mill were both, or individually at the same time for that matter, powered by water power. And then, of course, the water power was later used to run turbines and generate electricity, and the mall was able to run electrical devices and equipment and so forth. So it's been a major evolution in that whole area down there, certainly. But this is just another indication. A couple more real quick. I thought this was pretty neat here. And Bob, I hope you're watching. Bob Mary, because I think this is some of your relatives here. This is a picture of three prominent citizens of Rocky Mount from the early 1800s. And I'll hold it back up in just a minute. I want to read it first. Dr. Newsom Jones Pittman, believed to be the first medical doctor in Rocky Mount, opened an office in 1839. In 1850, there's a portrait anyway. This 1850 portrait shows Tempe Battle Marriott and the styles of that area. So it's a lady named Miss Tempe Battle Marriott. And then the bottom is Miss William Burt, an early resident of Rocky Mount. And the gentleman is Benjamin H. Bunn, who was a Rocky Mount attorney. And it says an act of incorporation was ratified on February 19th, 1867. And a few weeks later, Bunn was elected mayor. So Ben Bunn was the one who was instrumental in getting Rocky Mount incorporated into a city. But these are the citizens over here. Let me move my fingers out of the way, that I was just reading about. And the lady in the middle, Bobby, if you're watching, I think she's probably some relation to you, Miss Tempe Battle Marriott. I'm not exactly certain about that, but I would not be surprised if that weren't some of your people right there. So anyway, one or two more, and then we'll jump into the pictures. And again, this book is just chock full of history, and it breaks down from 1860 to from early 1800s to 1868, 1868 to 1900. There's some photographs of prominent people, Dr. George Wimberly, Alex Thorpe. There's pictures of the First Presbyterian Church. There's images of railroad people. The R.H. Ricks R.R. Bozeman home. I'm not certain. This picture here, I'm going to show you this picture because it's a neat old house, but it's identified as the R.H. Ricks, that's Robert H. Ricks / R.R. Bozeman home. It says was built by Ricks in the latter part of the we got a call. Let's get this call. Hello there, you on the air?
Yeah, Randy, that was my great-great-grandmother.
I figured it had to be related to you, Bob.
My great-great-grandfather was Dr. Robert H. Marriott, and he set up practice there at the Falls in Rocky Mount.
Okay.
And he died shortly after the Civil War. But I was told, and I don't know how much truth it is, that on that covered bridge, that they needed to tear it down and repair it, and that was the county line at one time. And Edgecombe County didn't have enough money and didn't want to mess with it, so they moved the county line back to the railroad track.
I've heard that.
Gave Nash County that property from the Falls back to the railroad track.
Right. I've heard that same. So story a couple times in the past, and I think there's something to it. I believe that is true, actually. So, yeah, I saw that name. I said, that's got to be Ken to Bob somehow. So I'm glad you're watching. I'm glad you identified your great-great-grandmother there for us.
Right. Okay.
All right, buddy. Thanks again. We'll see you. Okay, I was mentioning this home here. This is the Robert H. Riggs / R.R. Bozeman home. I'm not sure exactly. This house looks very familiar. I'm going to show it to the viewers here, and if you recognize this house, and it almost looks like the house down on the corner of Gray Street and Falls Road, but I don't think that's it. I mean, it's similar in design, but I'm not sure that's it. But and you know, there's out on Gold Rock Road, 48 Highway, there's the old Bozeman home place out there, and that's an old estate home too. But that's not this home, unless this one was torn down and that one was built later. But I'm not exactly sure where this house was, but it does kind of remind me of the one down on the corner of, I think I'm right. I think it's Falls Road. It may be Falls Road and Church Street, actually, I'm thinking about. There's an old house that's got these, particularly, where am I at here? Where's my picture? Over here on this side. Over here. This area here looks familiar to me. This kind of octagon-shaped portion of the home. So I don't remember seeing it recently, but that may be the same home. Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Like I said, I could go through this book and spend a whole show just sharing pictures and articles and information that are in here, but I do have some pictures I want to share with you, so we'll take a quick break here in just a minute and we'll get into some of these pictures. But I also wanted to mention that I heard over the years there's a couple different ones of these books out. And so, and I have a real concern that through lack of interest, some old historical references like this could get thrown away. So if you're in possession of an old historical book, and this book is not that old, but thank goodness there's a lot of old information in it, a lot of old photographs and historical documentation, and it's just a treasure trove of historical facts and pictures. And so if you're in possession of a book like this, including this one, by the way, this one happens to be mine. Oh, we got a call. Let's get this call. Hello there, you on the air?
All right, that book you're looking at, Rocky Mountain, A Pictorial History of Rocky Mountain.
Right.
That book, I think, was done when they first had a printing done of it. It was 3,000 copies of it. That was a fundraiser for the Rocky Mountain Chamber of Commerce. I think Junior Gill had something to do with it. And it sold out very quickly, and I think they did another printing of it. I don't know how many copies would have been done the second time. I'm just not sure. But it's not really that old of a book, but most of the subject matter in it is old.
You're exactly right. In fact, it's copyrighted 1977, so it's not a very old book. That is true. But it's just got a tremendous amount of information, and it's a neat collection of historical pictures and artifacts, and, well, not artifacts, but articles, I meant to say. So, all right, buddy. Thank you here. All right. I'll tell you what, Lee, let's take our first commercial break. When we come back, we'll jump back in, we'll show you some pictures, and we'll take your phone calls, and we'll just have a good time looking at old Rocky Mountain. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back in a few minutes with more Wayback Wednesday.
Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Floors Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service. We offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family. And we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
When faced with special care needs for elderly or disabled loved ones, families want compassionate, comforting care. That's Tender Touch Home Care Services' goal, providing the level of care we would expect for our own. With over 10 years of home care excellence, Tender Touch provides an array of services that keeps your loved one at home. From personal care, light housekeeping, errands, and meal preparation, to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern.
We're in our 18th year of practice at the Hammer Chiropractic Center, and we've seen over 15,000 different people in the Rocky Mount area. 40% of headaches actually come from a neck problem. Many patients come in taking multiple aspirin, over-the-counter medications and such a day, and we can get you to stop doing that and actually fix the problem so the headaches don't rise anymore. A lot of people think chiropractic hurts. It does not. Most of the people come in and they feel great when they leave.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flores Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
And we're back. Folks, if you're just tuning in, you're watching Wayback Wednesday. I'm your host, Randy Adcox. Good of you to join us tonight. Earlier we had a caller call and mentioned a plaque out at Battle Park where their first post office was here in Rocky Mount. And it just so happens, during the break, I was thumbing through this book, and there's actually a picture of the first post office. And it's a little small picture. So, Lee, I don't know if you can get this or not, but if you'll try to zoom in on this, I'm sure a lot of folks have never seen a picture of that post office, but it's right here. There you go. And that was in the location where the actual, where that plaque is now. It's where this building was. There's a little small post office up there on one of those big rocks at the mill. And it looks like, it's hard to see for sure, but it looks like in the foreground there is one of those big old rocks. I'm not sure about that. I see a tree off to the right over there, so I'm not exactly sure which way this house was facing, but this is the original post office, or at least a picture of it, I should say, that was down there at the mill, at the Battle Park, where that plaque is now. So, all righty. And as I said, there's one more thing I wanted to show you too. Lee, hold it. I'm sorry, Lee. I took it away too soon. Recently the Confederate monument was taken down. This is a picture of it as it was originally. And of course you can see there were 4 Confederate soldiers, one on each corner and then one on the top spire there. But there's an interesting bit of information that I was not aware of until I was reading this just a few minutes ago. I'm going to share this with you. It says the Confederate monument is located just across the Tar River on Falls Road. It was unveiled on Confederate Memorial Day, May 10th, 1917, with a large crowd in attendance. But the monument was erected by Robert H. Ricks, a Confederate veteran, in memory of Nash County soldiers. Mr. Ricks, George T. Williams, Thomas Fallon, John H. Thorpe, Henry L. Wyatt, and R. H. Bradley were the Nash and Edgecombe soldiers who were known as the Bethel Heroes at the Battle of Bethel. Wyatt was the first Confederate soldier killed in the Civil War. I was not aware of that. The first Confederate soldier killed in the Civil War was from right here in Nash, Edgecombe County. Not sure exactly where he lived, but the monument itself was erected as a way to honor the memory of these soldiers who died in the Civil War who were from this immediate area. And I did not, that was something I was not aware of, that Mr. Henry L. Wyatt was the first Confederate soldier that died in the Civil War, and he was from right here in this area. So anyway, I'll tell you what, Lee, let's jump into our pictures now. And I'm not exactly sure where we're starting. I got to break out my glasses here because I printed off a list of these pictures and I printed them too small. There we go. This is the picture that Mr. Wallace Abernathy sent me. We showed this last week. And this, of course, it's identified here as Rocky Mount First Thrill to the Silent Screen at Riverside Theater, once company store. So, and I didn't realize just then that it was identified in this picture as previously being the company store, but obviously it was. And this picture, if you'll notice that catwalk across there on the kind of the right-hand side of the screen, well, it goes all the way across, but that's still there, at least in some fashion of it, going across Falls Road now. In this picture, you're kind of looking west. Rocky Mountain Mills is off to your right. Tar River's kind of off in the background there to the right. And so this is kind of a grainy picture. This was obviously, I think, taken from a newspaper clipping. And somewhere, probably early 1900s, I'm guessing, because that theater was, I believe, in operation up until around 1925 or so, somewhere along in there. So, okay, Lee, the next picture, this is actually one that was of the two that were donated, and you can see that it's a much clearer photograph. I actually scanned it. It's a little bitty 3x5 picture, and I scanned it. And Lee, if you would, zoom in on it. The movie theater is on your left there, and you can actually see there are marquees out there, signs showing what's playing. And there's I don't know if it's a boy or a man, but there's someone standing beside one of the marquees. And of course, Rocky Mountain Mills is across the road, so you're looking west here toward Tar River, going down Falls Road. And you'll notice also something called My Eye. This was before that railroad spur came across Falls Road. If you remember from previous shows we've talked about, there was a railroad spur that came from just off of Church Street, off the main line down there, and cut across through behind the library and come on across Gray Street and come on behind some of the mill houses back there, and eventually turned and come across Falls Road right along in this area, right along in here. And in this picture, of course, that's not there. These pictures, this one here in particular, I think was probably sometime around 1919, 1920. There you go. You can see that. I think that may be a child standing to the left, just based on the size of that advertisement there. And I tried to zoom in and see what was playing, but it got really blurry when I tried to zoom in more. But there is an old Model T off in the distance fixing to go over the bridge out there over Tar River. So, but as I said, this was originally the Rocky Mountain Mills store, and then in later years it became a movie theater. And I didn't realize until just a few minutes ago that it was actually identified as such in that picture Wallace Abernathy sent. So I thought I had made a major discovery tonight. Obviously, I was mistaken. But anyway, there you go. And so the next picture, Lee, if you would, go ahead and go to the next one. This next picture is the other picture that was graciously donated to the library by Ms. Bozeman. And it's looking back toward the mill. In this image, you're looking east. Rocky Mountain Mills on the left-hand side of your screen. The old country, movie theater by this time, is on the right-hand side of the screen. Model T is coming at you. And if you'll notice, this is a wood plank bridge at this time. And so when they tore this bridge down and replaced it, I don't know whether at that time it was a paved bridge or not. It's been paved as far back as I can remember. That doesn't say an awful lot, but if anybody remembers it not being a paved bridge, let me know. But I'm kind of thinking that when they tore this bridge down and replaced it, that they may have put a paved bridge across the river there. But anyway, I think these pictures, both of these, were somewhere around 1919, 1920, somewhere in that time frame there. And again, I want to thank first of all, Ms. Maddie Bozeman for donating them to the library, and I want to thank Tracy Thompson for allowing me. We've got a call. Let's get this call. Hello there. You on the air?
Okay, that bridge you're looking at right there is the steel trestle type bridge with the wood deck on it. It got replaced with the existing bridge that's there now.
Okay.
The bridge plate on the bridge that is closest to the dam was put there in 1937. It was done by the North Carolina DOT and the Progress Works Administration during the FDR years, and that's what the bridge plate shows. What you're looking at right there came down, and the concrete bridge was put there and opened in 37.
Okay. All right. Good deal. And now that you tell me that, I think I remember we had this discussion one time before, and I'd forgotten it, but I remember now that you say this. So
it's right there. There's a bridge plate on that old bridge at each end of the bridge, depicting when it was put there. It was one of those projects, just like when the
City Lake.
City Lake was built by a project of FDR.
Right. That was to put people back to work after Depression, right?
Right. They didn't want them to sit around. They were trying to find something for them to do. They put them to work.
There you go. That's a good plan. It sure is. All right, buddy. Thanks again. We'll see you. Okay. Well, anyway, like I said, this bridge here came down, as Eric was just saying, somewhere around, I think he said 37. So it was there a right good while, certainly 10 or 20 years maybe. I'm not sure. I think I saw earlier. Well, actually, you know what? I think it showed in this book here when it was built. Okay, yeah, so it was built in 1883 and torn down. Well, this says it was torn down in Oh, I'm sorry, that's another bridge. So there's actually been 3 bridges over the Tar River. The first bridge that was built in 1883 and torn down in 1903 was a covered bridge. And then I guess in 1903, this bridge here was built, and it was in place until, I guess, 1937 when they built the bridge that's there now. So there were, in fact, 3 bridges over the Tar River there at Rocky Mountain Mills. All righty then. Okay, Lee, let's go to the next picture then. And this is actually a picture I found on Facebook. I just thought it was a neat picture, and it was a couple of them, in fact. I want to say this is one couple that maybe Gene Herring had shared. But this was the George L. Parker Jeweler, and it was actually located at 160 South Main Street. And I'm thinking, and I'm not positive, but I think that makes it on the west side. Maybe someone else will recognize that address and be able to confirm that for me, but I think the 160 South Main would put it on the west side, probably somewhere in the vicinity down there, the train station, or not too terribly far from there, I think. I'm not positive on that. Maybe somebody can confirm that with us. But again, this was a George Parker's jewelry store. I'm guessing Mr. Parker's one of these gentlemen here, I'm not sure. And the next next picture, Lee, is actually an advertisement from the same jewelry store. And I think this came out of one of the Rocky Mount High School high knockers. I think I remember reading that. And again, it was 160 South Main Street. I'm not sure if the address is not on here, but I actually saw it somewhere else listed that the address was given here. But this was another jewelry store that I was not aware of prior to seeing this. So, okay, Lee, let's go to the next one then. This is a store I'm sure many of you will recognize. And this is how I remember Sears as a kid. And that was my favorite store growing up. It was a annual ritual that we as a family did. Would go to Sears and get new school clothes and new shoes, and we'd go back toward Christmas time and pick out Santa Claus items, the things we wanted from Santa Claus, and then throughout the year, Sears was a place where we would get more clothes, the occasional appliance. I have so many great memories of this store, not the least of which is those peanuts roasting inside the store. I can still close my eyes and smell that, walk around inside the Sears store and smell those roasted nuts. That was the best smell in the world. And my wife cooks fried peanuts, and she don't know this, but every time she cooks them, I have a flashback to Sears, walking around inside this store and smelling those peanuts, because I think they fried them in there too. I know they roasted some, but I think they actually had a fryer and fried peanuts inside the Sears store too. So. But this is what I remember Sears. It's a shame that we don't have a Sears anymore. That's an institution in this country for sure, and it's just a shame that we don't have one now. But anyway, all right, Lee. The next picture I thought was neat because it actually shows 2 versions of Sears. There you go. The upper picture is from I think 1951, I believe. Can you zoom on that a little bit, Lee? This come out one of the yearbooks also, the Rocky Mount High Knocker. Yeah, the top picture is September 1951. The original retail store opened, and I do not remember this Sears being here. I'm not sure where it was. I don't know that it wasn't perhaps in the same location that the new one was, but I do not remember this store here, the upper picture there. So if anyone does, give us a call and let us know where this was, what you remember about it. But now, Lee, if you scroll down a little bit, this bottom picture is okay, here we go. Someone knows. Hello there, are you on the air?
Okay, that first building you're looking at right there where the first Sears Roebuck was on South Church Street was in the block where the First Baptist Church was.
Really?
It was on the east side of Church Street, along in there across. It was kind of the next door neighbor to where the Firestone store was on the same side of the street.
But kind of across from Central Cafe now?
No, in the next block south.
Oh, okay. I got you.
All right.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Well, I didn't know that. I never knew that Sears was down that far south on Church Street. And of course, this is I think this was built, scroll up a little bit, Lee. Let's see, the writing beneath, I think it says it's 58, I believe is what it says, that this store was built. February 1958 is when this store here was opened. It says, with a great deal of pride and pleasure that we at Sears are able to be a part of this fine city during its 100th birthday celebration, and look forward with great anticipation to the growth that is sure to be forthcoming in the future years. And it was at, of course, 128 to 142 North Church Street. And as I said, it's just a shame that that we don't have a Sears store at all in Rocky Mount anymore. That's certainly a sad testimony to what's happened in this area over the years, and the fact that a store is. And of course, you know, Sears in Rocky Mount was not the only one to go by the wayside. Sears, as a company, has endured some tough times, and so anyway. All right, Lee, let's go to the next one then. And this was actually another picture I found on Facebook, and I'm not sure. I think there you go. This was Mr. Billy Parker, and he was a train dispatcher for the ACL Railroad. This picture was taken in 1974, I think. He looks awfully familiar to me, and I'm not sure. Maybe someone can tell me for sure. He kind of favors this fellow I went to school with, Tommy Parker, and I'm wondering if this is Tommy's dad. I don't ever remember hearing Tommy's dad's name. This may be him, but this gentleman is identified in the caption of this picture as Billy Parker, ACL train dispatcher, and it was dated 1974. So I'm not exactly sure where his office would have been in proximity to everything else that was part of the railroad operation, but I'm guessing it was somewhere in the vicinity of the Emerson shops down there, South Church Street, part of Rocky Mount. And you know, I rode by there not too long ago, in fact, having an opportunity to ride down South Church Street for a job I was working on. And slowly but surely, all those old Emerson shop buildings are being demolished and torn down, and that's sad too. The railroad was such an integral and such an important part of the history of Rocky Mount over the years, and it's a shame that all that's been torn down. Oh, we got a call. Let's get this call. Hello there. You're on the air.
Yes, sir, Randy. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How you?
All right, that train dispatcher right there, as best I can remember, back in '72, they were on the second floor of the passenger station.
Oh, really?
I mean, 72. You said.
74, I think, how it was where it was captioned, but
Yeah, they were on the second floor of the passenger station, because when I used to work in the passenger run, we showed up at the bottom floor of the passenger station 30 minutes before the train was supposed to arrive. I was firing in the passenger run, and a whole lot of times we went upstairs to talk to the dispatcher, see how the train was running, and this, that, and other, you know. But it was in the second floor of the passenger station.
Well, you know, that makes sense now that you say that, because obviously he'd want to be able to know when the train was coming and going, and so it makes sense that to relay the information to the passengers. So, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, buddy, appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, that's where it was at.
Did you know him? Did you know Billy Parker?
No, I don't. I knew some of them dispatchers, but I don't recognize him or the name right offhand. I sure don't. He might have worked a different shift when I was going in the passenger run, but
now, when did you work with the railroad?
I don't forgot when they moved, but when they moved everything to Jacksonville, Florida, the dispatchers went down there too.
Okay.
One time they went to Florence, and then the other ones went to Jacksonville.
Gotcha.
I always say it's amazing how they're down in Jacksonville throwing a switch up here in Rocky Mount by pushing the button, you know.
So we don't have any dispatchers working train routing up here now, do we?
No, sir. Everything went to Florence first, then they moved on down to Jacksonville.
Gotcha. Okay, buddy. Thank you here. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You too. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to go to the call. Let's get this call. Hello there. You're on the air.
Okay, Atlantic Coast Line moved its home office from Wilmington, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida in 1960. Now, I'm not familiar with what that previous person speaking was telling you, but that's when the ACL moved their headquarters from Wilmington, North Carolina to Jacksonville. It was in the year of 1960.
Yeah, I think he was referring to the dispatching specifically, but and that's I think they did move different parts of it at different times, so that's probably the discrepancy there. But okay.
All right.
All right, buddy. Thanks again. All right. I thought we had one. Oh, we got another call. Okay. There you go. You're on the air.
I know damn well dispatch at that second floor of the pass station. Yeah, come on, somebody take my back.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you at all, and that makes sense to me. As I was still telling Eric, I think probably different parts of it were moved at different times, and so. But yeah, that would make sense to me. That was on the second floor. It would. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. All right, so I'll tell you what, Lee, let's take another commercial break. When we come back, we'll jump back into some more of these pictures, and we got some more pictures to show you of the meals and everything. So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back in a few minutes with some more Wayback Wednesday.
Sponsored by Floors Glass and Mirror Company. Servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service, we offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family, and we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
When faced with special care needs for elderly or disabled loved ones, families want compassionate, comforting care. That's Tender Touch Home Care Services' goal, providing the level of care we would expect for our own. With over 10 years of home care excellence, Tender Touch provides an array of services that keeps your loved one at home. From personal care, light housekeeping, errands, and meal preparation, to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern.
We're in our 18th year of practice at the Hammer Chiropractic Center, and we've seen over 15,000 different people in the Rocky Mount area. 40% of headaches actually come from a neck problem. Many patients come in taking multiple aspirin, over-the-counter medications and such a day, and we can get you to stop doing that and actually fix the problem so the headaches don't rise anymore. A lot of people think chiropractic hurts. It does not. Most of the people come in and they feel great when they leave.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday. Sponsored by Floors Glass and Mirror Company. Servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
And we're back. All right, folks, before the break, we were looking at some pictures particularly the one of Mr. Billy Parker, who was a train dispatcher back in the 1970s. And I got to get at my old school pal, Tommy Parker, and see if that was his dad. I'm not certain. It may not be, maybe a different Parker altogether, but it sure favors him. So, and I do think, as I said before the break, I think probably what happened was there was probably some different portions and segments and departments of the ACO Railroad operation that did move at different times. And that makes perfect sense to me that there could have been part of it that did move in the 60s and another part moved in the 70s. So I think everything kind of meshes together there. I think we've got some good information coming from both of our callers. So, all right, Lee, let's jump back into our pictures here. And this next picture is actually one that I think we showed this last week or week before last, but I stumbled across it again, and we've talked about this building many times in the past. And like I said, it's the old little triangle-shaped building there on South Main Street, on the corner there in Main and Marigold Street. And of course, this is all gone now. The City Lunch and the Bluebird Taxi. The building itself has been gutted, but the structure, the shell of the building, I should say, is still there. This is also, if you remember, I think last week, might have been Eric called in and reminded us about the railroad spur that come off the main track and runs behind this building right here, in between this building and the one behind it over there, and then it used to go across Marigold Street. And there is, in fact, still a piece of that old railroad spur track back there. I went several months ago, and just to just to see for myself, and sure enough, there was a couple of pieces of railroad track back there that they just left when they took up the track everywhere else. So if you want to go back and look at an old piece of history, you can go back there and you can still see a piece of that railroad track as it was when it went behind these two buildings here and eventually crossed over Marigold Street down there. So, all right, Lee, I'll tell you what, let's go to the next picture then. And this next one was one I did not remember seeing before. This was from 1969, and it was the Booker T. Washington homecoming parade. And pretty girls there on the float. There's, I think that's Gaiman's Jewelry, I believe it is, in the background there. Lee, I'm just curious. Let's kind of see if we can zoom in. It looks like an antique store there, just to the left of Gaiman's, but I couldn't read the sign. And I'm not sure if we zoom in, if we'll better tell exactly where this is. I don't myself recall Gaiman's Jewelry, so maybe someone does. They can call in and let us know where that was. But this picture was dated 1969, and Edinger's Antiques, and he sells Oriental rugs and something else. I'm not exactly sure what there. But there's Gaiman's Jewelry, and like I said, I can't say I remember where this was. I'm old enough to remember this picture, but I don't remember where that jewelry store was. But in any case, this was again, it was identified on the picture as the 1969 Booker T. Washington High School homecoming parade, and that. I'm guessing this is Main Street. It looks like it anyway. So, okay, Lee, we got a few more. Let's buzz on through these. This next picture is one I actually found in an old, this was actually in, I believe it was 1920 Rocky Mount High Knocker I had. And I was actually looking for information about the old theater and the Rocky Mount Mill store and stumbled across this Fenner's Warehouse picture. And I did not recall seeing this before. Maybe I have seen it and just didn't remember it. But I'm kind of trying to compile a collection of these old Rocky Mount pictures, and I'm trying to categorize them. I've got a folder, for example, on my computer. I've got a folder for old theaters. I've got one for old warehouses. I've got one for old hotels, stores, and different types of businesses. And so I added this to my collection of tobacco warehouses today. And it does not give an address, so maybe someone remembers where this was, but this picture was from around 1920 because it was in the Rocky Mount High School High Knocker from 1920. I'm thinking this was probably one of those buildings that has since been burned down or demolished, but I really don't know where it was. So if anyone can share any information about that, give us a call, otherwise we'll move on. Okay, Lee, what's on next on the agenda there? Oh yeah, this to me was just something I thought was neat. It was 1970, and Rocky Mount had been designated as an All-American City, red carpet city. Oh, we got a call. Let's get this call. Hello there, you on the air?
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir, sure can.
1956 telephone book, Fenner's Warehouse number 1 was located at 324 Falls Road. And their number 2 warehouse was located at 287 North Main Street.
Okay.
That one up there on Main Street is probably going to be the one that was behind where Hardy's number 1 was across. I'm not sure. That's what's listed in the 1956 Carolina phone book.
Gotcha. Okay. I was thinking that might be somewhere in that
would have been on Falls Road. That would have been cross the tobacco platform. Cross from the tobacco platform, cross Falls Road over there behind where Hardy's number 1 was.
Right. Okay. All righty.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We got you. Thank you, buddy. All right. I think we're having some problems here with our phone. Let's get this call here. Hello there. You're on the air.
Hey, bud. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you tonight?
I'm great, too. Look, back to the dispatches, that was Billy Parker's picture.
Right.
then it was Bill Barbie. He was the chief of the dispatchers. And then Lord Boone was a dispatcher. Spencer Cockrell was a dispatcher. And he retired about that chitlin place over there off Atlantic Avenue.
Hucks?
Yes.
Okay.
And Brock Lucas was a dispatcher there one time, and George Bell. But the train crews used to go on duty on the back end, on the bottom floor. They would get there and change crews there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Billy Parker was a good old dispatcher up that way, because I worked for the railroad for 38 years.
Uh-huh.
And part of the time was down at the CO, and the last 20 years was at the passenger train station where it's at now.
Okay. So you didn't ever know whether Billy had a son, do you? Do you remember when he had a son named Tommy?
I think so. I'm not sure.
I got to look my old high school buddy up and see, because this Billy Parker looks an awful lot, favors an awful lot of just Tom Parker.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe Billy lived on Winston Road.
Yes, that would be the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yep, that would be him. Sure would.
And then Lord Boone, I think he's still alive. He lived around over here close behind Harris Teeter, close to me, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Barbie was the chief dispatcher, and he just recently died a couple of years ago.
Okay.
He lived up in the Pines.
So you were there through the 70s then, too?
Yeah, I started in 1970 and left in 2008 because I got sick with throat cancer.
Oh, sorry to hear that. All right, buddy. Well, look, appreciate the information here. You have a good night.
You too, bud.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Let's see here. Hello there, you on the air.
Okay, in the 1956 telephone directory, Gaiman's Jewelry Store. Let's see it. I done lost it. It's in the phone book. Gaiman's Jewelry Store. Lord, I done lost it.
Have you got the city directory there, or you got the actual phone book?
This is a 1956. Gaiman's Jewelry Store in 1956 was at 139 South Main Street.
Okay. Well, that would have been down there not too far from the train station then.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been in the block there where the Planners Bank is in.
Okay.
I don't know which side of the tracks, but that would have been the block that it was in.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, buddy. Thanks again. Hey, I appreciate you.
All right.
All right, we'll see you. All right, Lee, I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead. We've got a handful, but we may not get to all these tonight, but we'll go through as far as we can. We've got time for, I think, one or two more. Now, let's get this call. Hello there. You're on the air.
I just wanted to tell you, Bill Parker did have a son named Tommy Parker, and he's in our neighborhood out in Edgecombe County.
Okay, Tommy's a good boy. He and I went to school together. I think a lot of Tommy. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Okay. Nash County Elementary School report card. I don't know how this got in there. I think this was actually left from last week, but I know we didn't get to it last week. That's what it was. It carried over this week because I added on to this week's schedule. Okay, Lee. Somebody was smart, Miss Barbara Coley, all A's and B's. All right, the Rocky Mount Mill School, and I don't have a date on this. There's actually, I think, a couple of pictures of this school. I know some of you went to that school, and of course, it's long been torn down. It was down there on the corner of River Drive and Falls Road, but this was, again, the Rocky Mountain Mill School, and a lot of the kids who lived on the Mill Hill down there went to this school, and I think they went all the way, I'm not sure how far they went. Something like I remember reading somewhere, 8th grade or something like that, but in any case, that's what it was. I think, Lee, the next picture is also another image of the school from a different angle, maybe. Yeah, there you go. Back at the turn of the century, it wasn't unusual for some business firms to operate their own schools, such as the one shown here, operated by Rocky Mount Mills. Let's see. Oh boy. It says a note, there's a schoolboy sitting on the steps. So, 2 schoolboys sitting on the steps. All right, let's get this call here. Hello there, you on the air?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to give you a quick note.
Sure.
Found out that Dr. Lloyd Bailey died today.
Did he really?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that. I sure am.
He was a great guy. Anyway, we'll let you go.
All right, buddy. Thanks again. Appreciate it. Well, I'll be daggone. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, I think that's going to about run us out of time today. Lee, bring it back to me, and we're going to wrap it up. Let's see. I've got some more, but I think I'm going to save these. There's only about a half a dozen or more, but I won't have time to get through all these tonight, so I'll save these, and we'll bring these on the show next week. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. I appreciate all your calls and your information. It's always my pleasure to be here with you and share these old memories and these old pictures. It means more to me than you know to have you call in and share your information with us. So please keep the calls coming. Have yourselves a great week, folks. Take care of yourselves and be kind to each other. And we'll see you next week with more Wayback Wednesday. Good night.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Floors Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.